When we say electric mobility, it's basically the idea that mobility or transport is a major carbon expense for the society, and if we have to start solving for the climate crisis by minimizing our carbon footprint, it's actually a very low-hanging fruit. In the hierarchy of climate response, there are obviously more challenging things to solve for example, air transport, but road transport, or especially personal cars and buses on roads, it's one of the easiest things to do. So that's why I feel this is the first step towards many steps that humanity has to take to solve for climate, and it is a first and definitive way towards that. When you talk about electric mobility, there are fundamental technologies that go towards making these cars electric, connected, and hopefully autonomous. There's a lot of silicon chips or processing power that is required to enable these vehicles. There are these advanced batteries, lithium-ion batteries, that are required to enable these. And both of these key technologies, as you well know, require critical materials. So the material criticality is directly linked to how we can use electric mobility or electric cars and electric vehicles as a response, because it's completely contingent on enough materials being available through either fresh mining or recycling means. And if there is inefficient or disrupted supply, it can disrupt the entire climate response. Electric mobility, as we discussed, comes out of key technologies, foundational technologies, particularly things like batteries. I think it's well known that key materials like lithium, nickel, cobalt, they are not exactly abundant, or at least the processed forms of these materials, they're not really abundant. There are challenges in processing them at scale, in producing battery-grade materials, for example. And then in general, also the possibility of having battery production at scale, at cost, efficiently, that's also a challenge. What is also a parallel challenge is there is still a lot of skepticism in the world around, for example, electric cars. There are challenges around, is there enough infrastructure? And therefore, there is a slowing down, as you know, especially last 1 year, we have seen a slowing trend in the adoption of electric vehicles. And that creates a challenge, a chicken and egg problem. If there is not going to be enough people buying those cars, it will fundamentally affect the fungibility of battery projects, for example. So there is always a challenge that if we have to make this change, we have to do it at scale, and that we have to be all on the same page, that this is actually an important and good thing to do. So I think there are two dimensions to this. One is the demand side and the other is the supply side. On the demand side, I feel it's important to educate people. It's important to have a very singular direction of policy, and one requires, therefore, a concerted effort, right from making sure people know about electric vehicles, issues like range anxiety, especially if they are just perceptional, they have to be addressed through communication. You have to have definitely a singular direction of government policy and incentives that supports this transition. I mean, come on, we are basically saying we are going to replace the entire fleet of personal vehicles and public transport vehicles from the current ICE standard to electric. This requires extraordinary efforts, extraordinary policy support, extraordinary fiscal and financial support. And therefore, this has to be spelled out very clearly. This clarity also then helps the industry, for example, to do the the correct steps from their side, because this kind of synergy between industry and the public policy is also critical. In terms of supply side, I think the big challenge has always been that for most countries in the world, they have not been building capacity towards the critical raw materials and technologies that go towards making those batteries, making those key components for electric cars. And I think it's important, therefore, that the conception of what goes into making an electric car, it has to be studied and it has to be put into also practice in the industrial policy. It may even require, for example, many countries to start mining for some of these materials, which has not been the case for many decades, that we completely gave up on mining, but we may have to actually start mining and recycling the battery materials to create a sustainable supply that then feeds into this demand. So unless we don't have the both sides balanced, there will always be, for example, a peaking of demand which gets stunted because there is not enough supply, or worse, the supply being surplus, but there not being enough demand, which also then destroys all the investment that goes towards building the supply. So there has to be some sort of equilibrium, and this equilibrium, in the best case, would be scalable enough that our entire fleet of vehicles moves to a more green, clean electric standard. I feel it's so important that the young generation understands that the world is changing at a much faster pace than what it has been. The way policies are being conceived, especially in Europe and US more recently, they are at a pace and at a level of response which was not seen for many decades in the recent past. We have had very stable regimes until recently. So I feel it's very important that whatever work you're doing, whether you are studying economics, whether you're studying material science, whether you're studying management, keep your ears and eyes open to the trends out there. Keep your ears and eyes open to the events that are happening in the geopolitical space, because we are all merely a function of what we can do in the kind of odds or constraints that we are dealt. So it's very, very important that people develop an outlook that makes them not only concentrate on that lab, but also that window that opens to the rest of the world.